Welcome to Life Talk, a series of thought-provoking podcasts specifically developed to thoroughly enrapture, dynamically expand, and potentially enrich your life by challenging your heart. And now, here's Craig.
So as I put this podcast together, it's really a compilation of thoughts that I have throughout a week, a month, that have come to me by virtue of the work that I do, the patients that I see, the things that I happen to write. And I try to come at things from the perspective of an in-depth thought, something that is applicable to the times, but speaks in a deep way to the times. And so on this particular podcast, there is a quote that I wrote that's based on what we're seeing transpire in our culture today. And the quote is designed just to help us be thoughtful in terms of what we are doing rather than thoughtless. And the quote reads this way. It says, "How often have we taken up arms in some crusade that appeared so impeccably brilliant, indisputably praiseworthy, and immeasurably grand, that we came to believe that the crusade itself transcended all of the truth that would show it to be none of those things. And in the end, how many times were the arms that we took up in such a crusade discharged in our direction?" I think a lot of times we just tend to pick up on some idea or some thought or some sort of movement, and I don't know that we take the time to really think through the degree of the movement. I think what we respond to is the initial sense that this has value, that this has meaning, that this has purpose, that this is valid in the context of our world today and in the dynamics that we're seeing being played out around us. But do we ask the deeper questions? Do we really probe and ask maybe, where did this cause originate? In other words, what are the core issues of this particular cause? And in fact, are the core issues beyond this cause itself? Are these core issues, in fact, a manifestation of a much larger underlying issue that may be a part of our humanity? It may be a part of our culture. It may be a part of some current political agenda or some trend or something that the culture has come to define as vogue. But have we looked at the deeper issues and asked, is there something much more profound here that we're missing because we've taken up this cause that certainly reflects some of the elements, whatever this issue might be, but does not reflect the issue itself? And so I think we need to be thoughtful, because when we're not, often the cause is really not the thing that is going to address the underlying issue. And therefore the cause at some point is going to go away, or it's going to diminish in intensity, or it's going to end up turning in on us. And we end up having the cause turn on us in a way that's destructive for us, but then the cause itself becomes irrelevant to us. Therefore, the underlying issue that was really driving the cause in the first place goes unattended and unresolved. I think the second thing we need to think about, really, and probably more fundamentally if we're honest about it, is in the light of any cause, and whatever the dynamic of that cause is or the source of that cause, I think before we engage any cause, I think we need to look at ourselves and say, okay, are these issues inherent with us? In other words, do we possess within us the biases, the prejudices, some of the nuances, some of the behaviors, some of the habits, some of the history, some of the attitudes, some of the behaviors that really are at the core of whatever cause we've become a part of? And so I think it's imperative that first and foremost, we stop and we look inward before we look outward. So we are just bent on engaging in some sort of cause when we've really not looked inside and asked how much of the cause is reflective of a cause within us, or an issue within us, or a bias within us, or whatever that might be. And so I think it's really, really important that if we are to engage a cause, yes, as I noted a moment ago, we need to ask, what are the underlying issues, the real underlying issues here that are likely a whole lot bigger than this one individual cause? And then secondly, are those issues inherent within me? Are those things that are kind of working themselves around in me and hopefully working themselves out in me, but do I possess some of these issues as well? And so I think we have to go inward first before we go outward if we're really going to be responsible in dealing with the cause. And then thirdly and finally, do we become so enamored with a cause that the cause itself becomes the point of focus versus what the cause was really about in the first place? So sometimes I think I watch people become so engrossed in a cause and so taken up in the energy of the cause that the cause itself becomes the cause itself. And in that, we lose what we were really doing and what this was really about and any potential change that we could bring. Sometimes I think the fervor and the energy and the excitement of a particular cause becomes the cause in and of itself, and all of a sudden we're running rampant on a cause and we have forgotten probably what this cause is really all about. We have negated the responsibility we have to ask the bigger questions in terms of what are the underlying issues that are much bigger than this singular cause, and then we've also not taken the time to look internally and go, are these dynamics going on within me, and maybe I should be resolving them within me first. I think there's a lot of folks out there, and myself included at times, that we run off on these grand causes, and we're really not doing so in a thoughtful manner, and therefore, as the quote says, the dynamics of the cause end up getting directed at us in a negative way, or the cause goes negative, or the cause goes away, and in the end what we have is we have a cause that never really served the underlying purpose, that ate up a lot of time, effort, and energy, that fundamentally went very few places, if any places at all, and a cause that probably never really dealt with the underlying cause that was far bigger than the initial cause in the first place. And so in the end, I think what I'm saying is, let's be responsible people. Let's engage the issues in the world around us, absolutely. Let's look at the world around us and ask what we can do to make the world a better place. Let's look at the world around us and say, how do we engage the issues in our culture and our issues globally? Because I think we need to. I think we have a responsibility to do that. But I think we have a responsibility to do that with great thought, great care, and with a whole lot of introspection. And if we do that, I think we can address the underlying issues that are bigger than the cause in a way that the cause will hopefully become unnecessary because the issues that drove it have been resolved. And so I'd hope you take some time and think about that in terms of your own involvement in whatever cause you are standing for or have stood for. And might we really bring a change to our world that is not superficial, but something that is substantial? Think it through. Go change the world, but do so in a responsible way.
Thank you for joining us for Life Talk. For further information or additional resources, please visit www.craiglpc.com.